Hi everybody, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick.
And welcome to It Takes Two, a podcast where two people take two movies with the same plot or premise and watch and discuss them.
And in this week's episode, we watched Free Guy, which is a new movie out, and Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes. This is the first time that we are intentionally recording out of sequence.
Yes.
Because we want to give people some time to watch Free Guy before they actually listen to this.
So, spoilers ahead, folks, if you haven't seen the movie yet.
Yes, big spoilers. Well, I don't know if we'll do big spoilers, but considering it's a new movie, we don't want to ruin it for anyone.
Yeah, because that's a dick move.
Yeah, so warning that there will be spoilers. This is your warning. There's no time slot on the spoilers. They will happen throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Wait until you've watched it.
Then listen to this, yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's major differences between these two movies, which from the trailers I didn't get. Mm-hmm. So we sort of pinned these two movies together based on the trailer that was played for Free Guy.
Yeah, but based on the general premise of Free Guy. But I mean, watching it in cinema, I kept picking up on similarities to Wreck-It Ralph because we watched Free Guy first out of the two, but we had recently watched Wreck-It Ralph together anyway, like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of months.
So it was quite fresh in my mind.
It's because I hadn't seen it? Was that what?
Yeah, I think you hadn't seen it. So now you've seen it twice.
Because it's on Disney Plus, and I didn't have Disney Plus access until we lived together. So
yeah, and now you get the wonders of Disney Plus.
Yeah. So yes, the premise of Wreck-It Ralph, which I'll start off with, is he's self-aware. It's all about being in an arcade and him celebrating. Well, not celebrating, getting cut out of the celebration of the 30 years of his game being active.
Yeah, so Ralph is the villain of his game.
Yeah.
And the opening sequence of Wreck-It Ralph has like, in footage, it has like starting off the arcade when it first opened and like a time lapse of 30 years of all the arcade machines changing and their machines staying the same and what the game goes through. And it's interesting because music-wise, it starts off with real 8-bit music, and then as the time goes on, it becomes much more filled out. But as this is happening, we are hearing Ralph narrate it and explain his story, and it turns out that he's in a Bad Guys Anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
Because he's feeling these negative feelings about always being the bad guy.
Yeah. You can be a bad guy without being a bad guy.
We're bad, and that's good.
Yeah.
We'll never be good, and that's not bad.
Yeah. It's I thoroughly enjoy Wreck-It Ralph because it's a new take on sort of that anti-hero sort of premise.
Yeah.
Where I like a lot of anti-heroes because a lot of anti-heroes were inspiration for me in... I don't even know why I was going with that major deviance. I like the characters, and I think that I enjoy media with a anti-hero better than a one with just the
It's become a lot more popular in recent years, I think, the anti-hero. I mean, I think a big example of anti-hero in popular culture is Wolverine. I think Wolverine is a huge anti-hero. Logan.
Yeah.
Because what it is he's the good guy, but he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
Whereas Ralph is the other way around. He's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of kind of perceptions and people being put into boxes that they don't quite fit in.
Yeah. And
how that people react to that.
The other thing that is a major difference between Free Guy and Wreck-It Ralph is the characters in Wreck-It Ralph are self-aware.
Yeah.
And they have wants and desires, where the Free Guy, so spoilers going on forward from here, they're NPCs, non-playable characters, in a open sandbox cityscape game, which is, in my opinion, a huge dig at GTA.
Yeah, it's a direct reference to both GTA and Fortnite. Those are the two they use for reference. And also, the city is called Free City, which is a reference to Liberty City in GTA.
So he's a bank teller who's basically in this world, the sunglasses people, as they refer to them.
I like that they call them the sunglasses people, the heroes.
Are the heroes, and I say that with air brackets there, they're not actually heroes, they're players.
Yeah.
So basically, majority of the stuff they do is dickish, as we all enjoy doing when we play video games that are sandbox, because you can just, they're walking down the street and seeing robberies and stuff happen, craziness ongoing, and they just sort of, it's just part of their everyday life, and unless it directly affects them, they don't react to it.
What I found really interesting about it is how much he thinks his life is great.
Yeah.
So, like, he's like, this is the best coffee in the world. I have the best goldfish in the world. This is the best job in the world. I love my best friend Buddy. I do love his best friend Buddy.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite. Honestly, straight up, probably my favorite thing about the whole movie is the way they explored that friendship, because they could very easily have had Guy become, aware, self-aware, and go off, and Buddy never get that awareness and just be like, okay, and then be left in the background. But they genuinely care about each other, and I think that's great. I think it's so good.
So the overarching, what's the word? The lust for adventure, is that correct? No, that's not a terminology. I'm having one of those days today. The adventure is thrust upon your hero via Wreck-It Ralph wants to get a medal to celebrate because Felix Felix Jr., who's the protagonist of Wreck-It Ralph, he always gets a medal at the end of every game.
Yeah, at the end of every game he gets a medal, and then when Ralph kind of gate crashes the party that he should have been at in the first place.
Celebrate 30 years.
He has an argument with Jean, who I know, I'm not going to look at my notes, but I know twice throughout watching Wreck-It Ralph I wrote the words, I hate Jean.
Yeah.
And Jean says to him that Ralph is saying, like, when can I be part of the celebrations? When can I stand on the top of the tower? And they say, when you win a medal.
Yeah.
So then that's his goal, is he wants to go win a medal in another game.
And Free Guy, sort of his arc changes when he meets a player, Millie, or in the game Molotov Girl, who's a it sort of goes down the track, but she's a co-creator who's trying to find evidence that her and her partner's code were used in the game without licensing them and giving them a share of the profits.
Yeah.
So his take is he's following this person who's like the girl of his dreams.
Yeah.
And doesn't know why. And Wreck-It Ralph is off to try and find a medal.
Yeah.
The interesting thing for me is, other than the sort of the sunglasses people to me, and when Guy finally gets a pair of sunglasses.
Yeah.
It's a very They Live moment.
That's what it's based on.
Yeah.
It's a direct reference to They Live.
Yeah. Because I was hoping that someone else would notice it other than just me.
Yeah. No, it was a direct reference to They Live.
Even the bank scene is massive reference to that.
What I found the most references actually throughout it, and when I looked it up afterwards, they gave a list of 4 films that were like the big inspirations for it. But the one that I saw the most throughout it, and I was almost wishing that was what we were comparing it to, but it's not the same premise. The Truman Show.
Yeah.
They continuously reference the Truman Show. Even the fact that to get to the other world, his real world, he has to go out across the ocean and stuff, it's very, very Truman Show. All
the characters in Free Guy are fantastic. I'm just going to throw that out here now.
Yes.
All the performances are really well done, and it's nice seeing sort of a different dynamic when it came to Taika Waititi's character, because he plays the bad guy-ish. Yeah. He's the bad guy. He's like the CEO of the big games company, and it's just fun because normally most of them, going back to other movies in the similar genre, it's usually like a stuck-up white dude.
Yeah. I did worry, because I know you like to talk about diversity in our episodes, and I did worry that their villain is a person of color, but I feel like they more than make up for it with the amount of diversity just throughout the film, especially, again, Buddy. Yeah. My favourite. Which I guess, actually, I didn't think about this. One of the things that I would have compared Free Guy to in my mind, and turned out was a big reference, or a big influence on it, was Elf. The idea, which is just the idea of this guy who's totally lost in this world, and trying to win over this girl but has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
But the main character in Elf is named Buddy, and that's probably why they called him Buddy.
It's a very PG, sort of heartfelt Deadpool almost, because it's again Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, which is great, and he goes into being, you know, that standalone badass character versus many enemies, but because he's been practicing, because he's so dedicated, getting away with stuff that's crazy.
It's so good, but I mean I think that's where it comes into, for me, where it really meshes with Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah,
is that he decides, because the whole, you know, how people get points in the game is like doing bank robberies and shooting people and all this stuff, and you know, she tells him he needs to level up before she'll talk to him again, and he decides he's going to level up by being the good guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then he becomes famous for going around doing nice things in this game and stopping robberies and, you know, helping people.
Yeah. Where Wreck-It Ralph just seems to wreck everything he's anywhere near.
Yeah, but it's the same idea of them both trying to be the good guy.
Yeah.
They're both trying to prove that they can, you know, they can survive in this video game world while being a good guy.
Yeah. It's a really fresh premise, because a lot of video game sort of, and anything that's sort of on the cusp of, you know, when big studio executives will be like, oh, this thing looks profitable, let's market the shit out of it and make money out of it. It just flops. Like Pixels, I think, was a good example of just taking a premise that was a good idea and then spending way too much money on it. I've got literally no notes for this, by the way.
For either? Oh yeah, you didn't take notes. I wrote notes in the cinema.
Yeah.
I've got handwritten notes for...
and they were huge. They were like 1 sentence per page.
I couldn't see what I was writing, so I wrote very big. I have transcribed it onto digital so that I wouldn't be... I was thinking of the audio quality of me flipping through pages wouldn't be fantastic.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, because I wrote down for the opening... that there's a narrated intro to the game, and he talks about heroes a lot, talks about how heroes run this town, and he talks about the sunglasses people, and I thought all of that was comparable to in Wreck-It Ralph, you know, the people who get the medal. He wants to be the person with the sunglasses, Ralph wants to be the person who gets the medal. Yeah. And I thought that was a very similar goal. They do both, because I was thinking he got the sunglasses very early on in the game, or in the movie, but Ralph does actually get his medal quite early on as well. He just then loses it and has to go through a whole thing. Whereas with Guy, he gets the sunglasses so that he can talk to this girl. And then she says, well, I'm not going to, you know, come talk to me again when you're at level 100, because he's at level 1, and he goes off and, you know, becomes this big famous personality. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept. My one major gripe with Free Guy is they were using current active internet personalities to promote Blue Shirt Guy, which is who's referred to throughout games media. And that's the biggest gripe that I have, is because, you know, I there's a reference in it, in a fight sequence where he's scrolling through his items to defend himself when he comes up with Captain America's shield.
Yeah,
and he blocks it, and then Chris Evans, who's watching it on his phone, just goes, "What the shit?"
Yeah.
Like, that's good. That's a good reference because it's within. But like having people like Jacksepticeye, which I've got no issue with any. Well, I've only got an issue with one of the people that were mentioned.
Yeah.
But going through these, and I say famous, you know, these people that are online famous now, as references to this, sort of brought me out of the movie a lot. Like, it ruined my immersion.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it, you can, like, you know, there's a little bit of disbelief. Mm-hmm. But when these people are real, it ruined the whole flow for me for the movie.
Yeah, I saw people online say that they feel like that's going to date it.
Oh,
because
100%.
in 10 years' time, no one will know who those are.
Yeah.
But in 10 years' time, people are still going to know about the idea of streaming and streamers. They probably won't realize that those were real people that were really famous streamers at the time. They'll just think they're just, you know, actors playing streamers.
Yeah. I think that would have been a better premise, because there is a character in it who's a streamer who's amazing. His
So
avatar is Channing Tatum,
Yeah.
and it just allows Channing Tatum to just be Channing Tatum for a minute,
It's so funny.
and it's so good.
I think the Channing Tatum of all the kind of cameos, the Channing Tatum one is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Chris Evans one hits really hard.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, but it's quite short. But Channing Tatum is just, and they just have him doing like weird dances and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny.
Yeah, so Ralph goes off. He meets a young girl who's being tormented in a game because she's referred to as a glitch, and she's stolen his medal. He's accidentally released like a killer, like half between Zurg, half between, the arachnids from Starship Troopers on this like fun little kids racing car game, which all the cars are made out of cupcakes and they're all based on
it's
candy.
interesting because it's those things are from a very, very modern game. It's the game that's just been plugged in that week.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they do not know they're in a game.
Yeah.
They're just ones and zeros, I guess. They don't realize that they're in a game. They just are programmed to destroy the game they're in.
Yeah.
So the player is supposed to obviously, kill them all, and then if they don't,
have a safety measure within the game.
Exactly.
Which is
if they don't, they've
beacon.
got this beacon,
Yeah.
and the bugs all go into it and die. But in other games, they don't have this beacon.
Yeah.
So Ralph accidentally brings one of them in, and it gets underneath the ground and multiplies, like to infinity
by eating all the candy.
Yeah.
Candy trees. Yeah, that whole place is a diverse nightmare.
Also, interesting dynamic that they gave it, that those cybugs become what they eat.
Yeah.
So you get the ones that are all like different kinds of candies and stuff, and then that becomes very important later on.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy, like, the CGI in Wreck-It Ralph's fantastic. It doesn't, because the whole thing is in that world, it's not, halfway between. So there's a little bit of that. When you're with Guy and Free City, it's all real action stuff, and there's a little bit of CGI. And then when they're sort of watching the game, the polygon count goes lower, and they look like a crappier version of them, which was fun.
They do that in Ralph as well, because you see them as 8-bit characters when they're being viewed through the screen. And then they were originally apparently going to have all the characters for the whole thing stay as the resolution that they are in their own arcade games, but apparently it was incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah, that would be very hard to render.
Yeah, to have little 8-bit Ralph. And also it was very hard to make Ralph likable as an 8-bit character.
Yeah.
So they wanted people to like Ralph.
Yeah. But he does a good job.
Yeah.
What's the character? John C. Reilly does a really good job.
Yeah.
Because for me, he's always been a sort of, not a background character, but he's not been like the front and stage.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Step Brothers, I think he gets outshone by Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I mean the breakout John C. Reilly role for me was Chicago, but in that his whole character arc is him being in the background.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of his character. He's Mr. Sullivan.
I think there's like some cute elements to Wreck-It Ralph that aren't in Free Guy. Like I think there's some sequences that are supposed to be sweet and romantic, but because one of these people is a real person and the other person's like an AI character who's blossoming, it's kind of disturbing because the fact they'll never be together.
Yeah, I mean they get around that very well, that in the end, spoilers, Guy, literally says to Millie, he's like, he says, I feel this way, but he says, someone in the real world made me this way.
Yeah.
I'm a love letter to you.
Yeah,
and that's very sweet.
The relationship between Millie and Keys, who's played by Joe Keery.
Stranger Things fame.
Yeah. Is interesting because Keys, Joe's character, has sold out.
Yeah.
And sort of given up on his dream of being.
Yeah.
And Millie's still fighting it.
Yeah, so he's working in tech support basically for the guy who stole their game. And she is in the middle of trying to, pursue a lawsuit to get royalties and credit. That's what she asked for, royalties and credit. Because the idea is they sold their game to this guy, and then he said he didn't like it, didn't care about it, etc., etc. So he didn't use it, except he did use it without giving them royalties and without giving them credit in the basis for Free City.
Yeah.
And that's why, because the whole thing is they were trying to design a game that's just AI, and watching the AI, you're supposed to go in and watch the AI evolve.
Yeah.
So that's how Guy happens.
Yeah. Because, they've just copy and pasted, like, the coding with assets over the top.
Yeah.
And given them very limited, sort of a limited path.
Yeah, and it's she hums I think it's a Mariah Carey tune, and that triggers in him the AI because he was designed as a character in the original game who was supposed to be forever longing for a love with someone who didn't exist.
Yeah.
But the person was based on Millie.
Yeah.
With all her unique habits. So when she starts doing the thing that his imaginary dream girl does, he suddenly goes, "That's her. She's real."
Yeah, including their coffee choices.
Yeah, and that's why he breaks the game rules.
Yeah.
And he decides he's going to become a sunglasses person. Can I talk about the cameos for that? Because we've touched on them already.
Yeah,
but there's other cameos, because I'm just thinking about it, because when he gets the sunglasses, how he does it is he stands up to a player character who is robbing the bank, and he's like, "Can I just take your sunglasses?" He's trying to take them, and then he accidentally shoots the guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's okay, he's just napping. That's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the
you got the cameo list as well?
Yeah.
And they've got John Krasinski as just a streamer or a player who's being interviewed and is like silhouetted. They've got Tina Fey plays the mom vacuuming in the background of the guy who's playing as Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman is the guy who gives Millie the map in the alley in the first place. So I thought it was fun that they just throw in a selection of cameos in there.
Yeah, that whole sequence of him streaming and the mum in the background. It's like, don't touch that sock, you'll be in therapy for the rest of your life.
Jeez.
It's like, you're 22, get out of my house.
Yeah. I mean, it goes into a real stereotype, but it takes it in a fun way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, one of the things that I think is quite funny about Free Guy is that they show, these big macho buff characters doing dumb shit, and then it cuts to, like, two little girls playing it.
Yeah.
And it's very funny.
Yeah, that whole idea is fantastic, because you go from this world of like people playing a game to the people living in it, and without the AI that they'd built, like none of the people would have like real lives. But it's just funny watching the characters react.
Yeah.
To the outside stimulus of, hey, look, we're all gonna, and there's a nice little sequence because there's still like a doomsday in each game. Mm-hmm. Or each game.
Each movie.
Each movie has like a doomsday clock.
They both have something that's going to happen that's going to result in the plug being pulled essentially. Because in Wreck-It Ralph, because Ralph leaves, there's no Ralph in the game, so they're going to shut down.
Yeah.
They're going to plug out their game, which means that none of them will. They'll basically be homeless, because that's what they show. They show Qbert and some of the other games in this like central hub where they're all begging for money because
which I assume is the surge protector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way of doing it. Whereas then in Free Guy, it's they discover that when the sequel of the game is going to launch,
everyone gets deleted.
Yeah, they're going to kill the original game to unplug the servers, and all those characters all those NPCs will be gone.
It's an interesting decision, because I don't think actual game development companies would ever do that, because of just how much fan backlash there were.
Yeah, but the reason he's doing it
is because he's a dick.
No, it's because he knows that she'll win her lawsuit.
Yeah.
So he's got like 3 days or something till he gets to unplug the whole game, and then the evidence that she needs for her lawsuit will be gone.
Yeah.
Because he knows that the evidence is out there and she can win the lawsuit. And then they both have also a kind of secondary doomsday, which is in Wreck-It Ralph when the cyborgs are released in Sugar Rush, and we know that Vanellope can't leave because she's a glitch, and glitch can't leave their game, so if their game is destroyed, she dies with it. And in Free Guy, it's when Taika Waititi's character, Antoine, which is weird because Antoine is a French name, but they spelled it Antwan in the movie, and I was like, that is not how you spell that name. But anyway, Antoine, gets wind of what's going on and sees that they're going to find the original city, or the original island that they had built in the game. So he starts just literally destroying all the servers.
Yeah, it's an interesting little piece, because I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever do that, because it's millions of dollars worth of damage that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in the end of Wreck-It Ralph, everything seems to be all well and good. I haven't seen Ralph Wrecks the Internet.
Ralph Wrecks the Internet,
yet. It is on my list.
I've seen it, but I honestly don't remember much of it. So it wasn't as memorable as the first one.
No, of course not. It feels like a money grab.
Mm.
Where was I going? Somewhere.
So when you were saying Wreck-It Ralph, it all seems fine at the end.
Yeah, it all seems fine at the end, but no one. Everybody gets away with everything. Fix-It. Felix Fix-It Jr. gets the girl, and which is another really interesting.
Sergeant Calhoun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a really interesting take, because normally it's the the main character that gets the girl at the end, but in both these movies, neither of them get it.
And in both movies, their friendship is given equal, if not more, weight than the romantic relationships that goes on in the subplot.
Yeah.
Because in Wreck-It Ralph, it's Ralph and Vanellope develop a really strong bond.
Yeah.
Whereas Fix-It Felix gets the girl.
Yeah.
And in Free Guy, you get Guy and Buddy, because Buddy, that's so heartbreaking. There's a scene, Buddy saves his life in a fight with Dude. We haven't talked about. I'll talk about Dude in a minute. But Buddy saves Guy's life, and then they're running together across this bridge as the servers are going, and the bridge cuts in between the two of them. So Guy tries to come back from Buddy, and Buddy's like, "No, go on without me." And then Buddy, like Thanos, evaporates into the air, he turns to dust, and it's so sad. And then at the end of the movie, Buddy is back in the game, and he's like, "Hey!" And they're so happy together, and it's so good. Also, he talks about he rode a centaur there, and he's like, I rode a centaur. I mean, I guess I got a piggyback on a half man, half horse. I don't know. But it's so good. I think he's fantastic in the movie. I really, really like Buddy. Dude. So Dude is supposed to be a character in the sequel to Free City 2. And Dude was designed based on Antoine, Taika Waititi's character, wanting to bring Guy into the sequel, based on him becoming
internet famous.
Yeah, internet famous, viral is what I was gonna say.
Because no one knows that he's not a player. Yeah,
people think that he's a player who has hacked an NPC skin.
Yeah.
So he goes viral, and Antoine decides he wants Guy to be a character in the sequel, but bigger and better and whatever.
Yeah.
And then when actual Guy is about to,
cross the bridge,
he's like, just send in Dude.
Yeah.
And Dude is a bigger, buffer Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
That's like bare chested, but has like the blue shirt tattooed on his pecs. And he's half built, so he comes in and he's like, catchphrase, and his sentences will just have bits missing out of them, or he'll just be like, insert whatever here, kind of that kind of style, and it's so funny. And they have this huge fight, and that's when the Captain America shield comes out. He also gets out a lightsaber. They use a portal gun. They throw in all the references in this one moment. And then he eventually. And then Buddy shows up and throws Guy his glasses through the portal, which is cool. And Guy, when he has the glasses on, he has all the menu options, and he's trying to find a way to stop him. And then he's like, wait a second. And he just takes the glasses off and puts them on Dude. And then Dude is like, ooh, shiny things.
Yeah, and then just runs off down the street trying to catch drops that are floating in the air.
It's so good. And then Dude gets a redemption in the end as well.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, he wasn't a bad guy. He's just designed that way.
Yeah.
So,
I like that sequence because at the end and he's just carrying him.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan, like a giant buff Ryan Reynolds is carrying regular Ryan Reynolds down the street, and it's such a sweet, cute moment. But he's just like, you can put me down. You don't actually need to carry me.
It's so good. Yeah, it's very, very good.
Yeah. Just that sequence, he's just like beating the living crap out of a guy, and then he just like pulls him in close to his face, and he's just like, catchphrase.
Yeah, catchphrase. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's so good. It's really, really well done.
No, it was a thoroughly enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like, I think, there's a lot of references to other media in Free Guy, which helps, but there's a few things that just sort of pulled me out. But, that's just how do you connect with the young peoples?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's funny is I've seen a lot of backlash towards Taika Waititi's character online.
Yeah.
People just hate him, but you're supposed to hate him.
Yeah, I just don't understand. There's people that were like hating on like sending hate mail to like actors in Game of Thrones because the characters are evil, and it's like
but it's not that he's evil. I think people just think he's cringy because he makes like shitty references and things, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's like, that's the whole point of the character.
Yeah.
His whole arc is that he has stolen someone else's idea to make money off it.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those people, because you meet them, there are people who base their whole personality around being able to quote things or being able to reference things.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. And it's just, it's very much how that character is, and I have met people like that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just the people who are complaining haven't met anyone like that, but I've met people like that, and that is what they're like.
Yeah.
And Taika Waititi does a great job of it.
Yeah. He comes off as like the bad sort of vice president of a company like you get in the old 90s movies who are just like threatening, the hero character.
Yeah. But it's a much more modern take on it.
Yeah.
Because he's not like, out of touch old white businessman.
Yeah.
He's trying really hard to be in touch, but failing at it.
Yeah.
And it works out very, very funny.
I did like his outfit when he's first revealed.
Mm.
Because it's like a knee-length business jacket, but then it's like half denim on one side, and you're like, you'd have to go to a fashion designer, like that's...
Yeah, it remind me of like every outfit that David wears in Schitt's Creek. I know you haven't seen Schitt's Creek, but it's very intentional. Like, these are high-end designer things, but they just look ridiculous to people who don't know anything about fashion, such as ourselves. I don't know. Well, I don't know anything about fashion. I feel like you were in a similar boat. But
I'll keep wearing black until a darker colour is invented. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it already has been invented. You gotta get the blackest black or whatever.
Vanta black.
Yeah,
it's literally so expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can make a shirt out of it.
No, we'll just get like tattoo ink and Vanta black, and you can just turn into a void.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So where were we?
Where were we?
I think in terms of characterization, I felt like Guy, like comparing one-on-one, Guy is a mixture between Ralph, Felix, and Turbo.
Oh, we haven't talked about Turbo yet.
We haven't talked about Turbo.
Because you showed me a note.
Yeah, one of my notes that I wrote while I was watching Free Guy, and this is so before we had rewatched Wreck-It Ralph, one of the notes I wrote was just, he is Turbo.
Yeah.
So Turbo, so in Wreck-It Ralph, they make a lot of references to Turbo before anyone tells you what it is, and the way they justify explaining it in the movie is Felix is explaining it to Calhoun, who's part of this new game that's only been there a week, because he's like, oh, he's gone Turbo, and she says, what is that? And at this point, it's about the third or fourth time we've heard it.
Yeah.
So we're also going, what is that? And Turbo, it turns out, is a character from a racing game that was in their arcade. A really old 8-bit racing game. And a new racing game was plugged in opposite it. And became more popular instantly. So Turbo became jealous and moved to the new game.
Yeah.
And then people thought the game was broken because this Turbo character was showing up in it and it started glitching the game.
Yeah.
So they pulled the plug on the game, and the idea the story that goes around in Wreck-It Ralph is
You stick to your own game, or otherwise you'll get deactivated.
No, well, the story that goes around about Turbo is the plug was pulled on Turbo and the game.
Yeah.
As in, he also died with it.
Yeah.
And then we later find out, spoilers for Wreck-It Ralph, that King Candy, who is the leader of the Sugar Rush game, is actually Turbo.
In disguise.
He's rewritten the code of the game because it's, again, another racing game. And that's what he does. So he's gotten into it, he's rewritten the code, he's removed the queen or princess of the game, who it turns out is Vanellope, who's the glitch, and that's why she's glitching. He's removed her from the canon of the game, put himself in her place, and erased everyone's memories.
Yeah.
So the reason I said that Guy is Turbo is because Guy isn't from Free City. Guy was written and designed and coded for their original game on the island.
Yeah.
And that's how they're able to break into it, and that's how he's able to become sentient, is because he was a specific character on that other one, and he had the code slightly changed to make him fit into this other game. And that's what Turbo does to himself. So Guy, it's unknowing that he's been plucked from another game and put in there. But that's why I was like, oh, he is Turbo. He's gone Turbo unintentionally.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to get back to his original game.
Yeah, what also sets him apart is the fact that he can see the other side.
Right.
Because he does that weird thing with his blinds every day, which is like subtly in there in the beginning, and you're like, oh,
yeah, you don't know what he's doing. You just think he's a weirdo. He opens and closes his blinds every morning. He opens and closes his blinds a bunch of times and looks at it, and it turns out that you can see the reflection of the original build.
Yeah.
In the on the blinds.
On the reflections. Yeah.
So they erased the game, the build, like, to look at in the game, but they forgot to remove the reflections. Is how she explains it.
Which is a possible outcome, because there are games that don't do reflections very well because it's just hard to code.
Yeah. So they forgot to remove the reflections from it. So he, from his apartment, can see the island if he tilts his blinds in a certain direction, because he can see it reflected. Which is interesting.
They're both thoroughly enjoyable movies, and if you haven't seen Free Guy, why did you listen to this? Because we warned you in the beginning.
Some people just like to listen to other people's thoughts on things before they watch it, which I don't understand. For someone who has a podcast where we talk about films a lot, I don't like listening to reviews of movies that I haven't seen. Yeah,
because I think people rely way too heavily on reviews these days, because one person's review in a negative way, as long as the parent company they work for holds a lot of weight, can destroy people's work based on the fact that they don't like it. And I make jokes about this all the time, talking about how the same negatives for, say, Battlefield are taken as positives for Call of Duty, and they're written by the same writer for the same company, and it's like they still both get 9 out of 10s because that's what the developers pay the company to review them for. It's just like the entire thing's a waste of time. And then you get games that are from the heart, who obviously don't have the budget of other games, and reviewers will just be like, oh, this game's shit, don't worry about it.
Like Biomutant.
Like Biomutant.
We've gone into a total tangent now.
Yeah.
But play Biomutant.
That can hurt people, and it's exactly it. It's like, oh, this product isn't commercial, so therefore we're not going to back it. Yeah. And it's like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
You're not playing on an equal field. It's like, oh, sorry, your country doesn't make as much money as this other country, so therefore you're not allowed to compete in the Olympics. Yeah. It's like, no, that's wrong. You can't do that. And maybe that's like a big, giant leap, but still. It's a huge leap, actually. Yeah.
Just a little jump.
Violation of human rights versus just like freedom of market.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't put a whole lot of stock into reviews, and I don't like to listen to or read reviews before I've seen something. So
I don't even like watching second trailers.
I don't even like watching first trailers.
True. Well, first trailers are usually like spoiler free.
Not nowadays.
Oh my god. On a complete tangent here. If you want to see how really good trailers are made, watch game trailers. And then if you want to see how bad trailers are made, watch any movie that the studio doesn't have any faith in, because they will give you the entire premise of the movie. Yeah. Like, I went to see a movie with a friend Oh, it was. I went to a movie with Floyd. We saw the Joker and Poirot, right?
Right.
At the beginning of the movie for the trailer, which little bits of history here. Trailers used to come at the end of movies. That's why they're called trailers. And we saw the trailer for Ford versus
Ferrari. Yeah.
And the entire premise and showing him winning was in the trailer.
The whole plot's in the trailer.
And it's just like, why would I bother spending hard-earned money that to most people, like minimum wage is a lot in New Zealand, but into other countries, you know, maybe going to the movies with your girlfriend or your partner or your friends, you know, could be like 8, 9, 10. How much is it in Ireland for the movie ticket?
No, geez, I don't remember at this point.
Yeah, more than $10? Less than 20?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the cinema. I'm trying to do conversion rate. Yeah, I'd say, probably closer to 20 than 10.
So like an hour's minimum wage? More than that?
More than minimum wage in Ireland.
Why would you spend that much money on a movie that they give you the entire plot? It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, unless you're really into it, because I know people who are big car people who...
I know there are huge car people. There'll be people out there who are...
But the thing is that the people who are really into it are going to go to Ford versus Ferrari regardless of what the trailer is.
The point is that in the middle of the movie when the trailer ended, I actually called out in a funny voice, I can't wait to see that movie. They didn't give away any of the story during that trailer, and then like people behind us laughed. But it pisses me off. It pisses me off.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it happens a lot nowadays. Because you find that we get trailers, if we're watching YouTube on the TV, we get trailers before a video, and they'll, I'll be like, wow, I know everything that happens in this movie by the end of 3 minutes. Anyway, we've gone on a huge tangent.
Well, that's fine. That's what people listen for. They're not listening. I don't know. We'll have to wait for more reviews to roll.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know if the tangents are what you're here for. You're like, no, get back to spoiling the movie, damn it.
Yeah, if you want tangents, you want movie spoilers, what do you want more of?
What do you want from me?
Yeah, just let us know on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or by email.
Or just walk outside and scream really loud.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in New Zealand, we might hear you. Yeah. If you're somewhere else, Just
put that scream in a letter and then address New Zealand on it and then just ship it. Put enough stamps on that. Stamps are legal tender. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Probably.
Probably.
I mean, one of the things that I found interesting, which I didn't pick up on actually watching Free Guy, but I saw it a lot online, is that the score is by Christoph Beck. He composed it, who's the guy who did Paperman, which is a Disney short. And not only is it quite similar, but they obviously used a temp track for certain moments, especially the romantic moments, which is taken directly from Paperman, because they obviously we want it to sound like this is why we'll hire this composer, etc. And then they've loved it so much they left it in the movie. So in Free Guy, at multiple moments, the soundtrack to Paperman plays.
Yeah.
Paperman was the short that played before Wreck-It Ralph in theaters.
Ah, interesting.
So I thought that was a fun little connection. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I took a whole lot of notes, but I don't remember if there was much that I really wanted to say other than... No. Not either. Well, one of the things I found interesting about just researching Wreck-It Ralph was that it essentially started development in the 1980s.
Makes sense.
And it took them that long to make it. So it was originally... in the 80s, they were, in writing a movie called High Score, which was this idea. And then in the 90s, they changed the title to Joe Jump. And then when they finally, in the 2000s, when they were like, okay, let's really actually make this, for the first 2 months, the main character was Fix-It Felix Jr.
Yeah.
Before they decided to go a different direction and make it about the villain and how he's perceived, which I thought was an interesting change. I don't know if I would like the movie as much if it was about Felix. No offense to Felix.
If the storylines were the same, it would make no, it wouldn't be an enjoyable movie.
Yeah,
If the plot was the exact same, but you saw it all from Felix's point of view, yeah, it wouldn't have been an enjoyable movie.
No. I think if they made a Fix-It Felix Jr. movie, it would have turned out quite a lot like Free Guy.
Yeah.
Because he's, the good guy and everything's great all the time, and he loves his job and he loves his everything and whatever, and he wears a blue shirt.
And his hammer is literally broken. Like, it's just a broken item. It fixes anything it touches.
Yeah.
Including his own face.
Yeah. I love the moment where he's like, what does Ralph say to break things? Because he's trying to break out of the prison in Sugar Rush, and he's like, I'm gonna wreck it. And then he makes the bars bigger.
Yeah.
So he can't get out. Which is clever. I mean, there's a lot of references in both of them. Like, there's so many pop culture references in both of those movies.
Yeah. I think the ones in Wreck-It Ralph are a little bit more subtle and not sort of down your throat.
I mean, they've got Sonic at the
but that's
Central Station warning them about leaving their games.
That's all fine, but yeah.
They've got the, in Sugar Rush, they've got all the different candy jokes, and they've got the Oreo guards going, which are obviously a reference to Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
The little chanting guards that are going, Oreo.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So those jokes, like I said, are subtler than, just like, the Chris Evans reference is great.
It's so good.
But, if it didn't have Chris Evans in that moment, it would have been a real swing and a miss.
And I mean, it's funny because it's also Disney kind of taking pot shots at themselves. Yeah. Because they own Marvel, they own Star Wars. Yeah. I don't know about the portal gun. I don't think they own Valve.
No, no, that would have been an interesting conversation because it's not only just a portal gun; it's also the gravity gun from Gmod.
Yeah. So they obviously had to.
Yeah, have to ring up Gabe, who's currently living in Rotorua, apparently.
Oh, really? Is he?
Yeah, he's been living in New Zealand for like all of lockdown.
Oh, okay. Maybe
which
he's
really
listening.
pisses me off when the fact that we can't get Valve indexes or the new handheld console in New Zealand because of limitations.
We'll just go to Rotorua and we'll ask him for one.
Yeah, I don't think we better get on his property. Hello, I'd like to yell at you about your product. What are you visiting Gabe Newell for, sir? I want to yell at him about his property. Yeah, we're calling the police.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed both movies as like a...
I love them both.
Not as I'm hugely invested, just as like a fun...
Yeah,
like they're both very popcorn movies. You don't have to be...
I'm remembering that we didn't give ratings, but part of that is because I actually don't know what the rating is for Free Guy.
I think with a movie that's just come out and talking about how much money they made is kind of irrelevant.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't have the money, but like in terms of IMDb ratings, so Wreck-It Ralph is a 7.7 on IMDb, and Free Guy apparently also has a 7.7 at the moment.
Well, we've got our first tie, ladies and gentlemen.
Subject to change, I assume, because considering... so we're recording this, we're giving a little bit of time for people to have watched the movie. So we're recording this on the 15th of August.
You've dated us.
Yeah, we watched it on the 13th of August. It came out on the 12th here in New Zealand. And we saw it on the 13th. Because it's nice to go on a weekday morning or afternoon.
I like that theatre. Like, I used to like Gold Lounge, but being that Gold Lounge got destroyed by an earthquake, like, it's nice to have a theatre that's in an area where if you do go during the day, it's quiet. Like, it sucks for them, but they weren't quiet. They were busy. Yeah,
big shout out to Empire Cinema and Eatery in Island Bay.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah, we love you.
Send us free tickets. Right, so that's everything. You can find us on Facebook at It Takes Two Pod and on Twitter and Instagram at ItTakes2_pod. Thank you very much for listening.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.